हेलो स्टूडेंट्स, वेलकम टू ओमनी ज्ञान। मेरे चैनल ओमनी ज्ञान में आप सब लोगों का फिर से बहुत बहुत स्वागत है। सो स्टूडेंट्स, वी विल बी लर्निंग अबाउट अ वेरी ब्यूटीफुल पोम डैफोडिल्स, ओके, एंड आई एम गोइंग टू मेक हियर अ लाइन बाय लाइन explanation. And this is a beautiful poem penned by, composed by the great poet William Wordsworth. And a very simple explanation is going to be there, okay? So without any further delay, let us start the explanation of daffodils. Now, before we start the explanation, let us first of all try to understand what is the poem all about. So, about the poem, okay. So, who is the poet? We already learned it is William Wordsworth, okay. What is the theme of this poem? The beauty and power of nature. What is the setting? That is the location of the poem. A beautiful scene beside a lake. Now, what is the main idea of the poem? A joyful memory of daffodils. Daffodils is a flower, okay. Daffodils जो है ये एक बहुत ही beautiful flower है, okay. So, a joyful memory of daffodils which continues to comfort the poet, okay. And what is the message of the poem? The message of the poem is nature can fill our hearts with happiness even when we are alone. अगर हम अकेले भी होंगे तब भी नेचर जो है हमारे दिल को बहुत हैप्पीनेस दे सकता है. इट कैन फिल आवर हार्ट्स विथ हैप्पीनेस. ओके, नाउ वी विल लर्न द poem. So stanza 1, as you can see, line by line explanation. Okay, so in stanza 1 the poet sees the daffodils. So the first line of the poem says, I wandered lonely as a cloud, which means the poet compares himself to a lonely cloud moving freely in the sky. Okay, wandered matlab to roam freely. So the poet is roaming freely just like a cloud moves freely in the sky. Then that floats on high over vales and hills. Vales matlab valleys, okay. So the cloud floats high above valleys and hills, showing the wide beauty of nature. Okay, so if you go to the height of the clouds, you will be able to enjoy nature in a very wide manner. आपको सब कुछ जो है बहुत wide angle से दिखेगा, right? Okay, so similarly the poet who compares himself to a cloud, poet अपने आप को cloud consider कर रहा है. और poet क्या है? He is just like clouds fly over hills and valleys. Okay, so the poet is also floating over, floating above the valleys, the hills. Okay, and is able to see, enjoy nature in a very wide manner. Third line in stanza 1 says, when all at once I saw a crowd. What is this crowd? This crowd is a crowd of daffodils. Okay, so suddenly the poet notices a large group of flowers. ठीक है, तो एक बहुत लार्ज ग्रुप ऑफ फ्लावर्स पोएट देखता है. ये फ्लावर्स क्या है? डैफोडिल्स. ओके, अ होस्ट ऑफ गोल्डन डैफोडिल्स. सो देयर आर मेनी ब्राइट गोल्डन डैफोडिल्स. ओके, दे लुक cheerful and beautiful. So daffodils are basically, yellow in color. Okay, so bright golden daffodils from above, from the height of the clouds, the poet, he sees the daffodils, a crowd, many daffodil flowers. Okay, and the daffodils are like dancing with the wind. Okay, so they look very cheerful and beautiful. So जैसे हवा बह रहा है तो daffodils जो भी झूम रहा है, right, as if they are very happy and cheerful. Okay, and beautiful also. Beside the lake, beneath the trees. So what is the location? Where are the flowers growing? The flowers, the daffodil flowers grow beside a lake and under the trees, making a beautiful natural scene. Okay, so the poet is watching everything from top. Okay, the poet, in the first line itself, the poet compares himself to a cloud, and the poet can see hundreds and thousands of daffodils. Okay, growing beside a lake. एक lake के किनारे वो grow हो रहा है, and some daffodils are under the trees also, and it is making the whole nature beautiful. Okay, so the natural scene is very beautiful. Then the last line says, fluttering and dancing in the breeze. So the flowers move gently in the wind, and the poet personifies them as if they are dancing. See, flowers cannot dance, so this is a personification. Okay, this is a personification when a non-living thing is compared to human beings. Okay, that is called personification. So poet को इस तरीके से, poet ने daffodils को इस तरीके से personify किया है, okay, that they are dancing. So when the wind is blowing, you see the flowers are moving sometimes this side, sometimes this side. Okay, so it seems as if the flowers are dancing. Okay, Now we move on to the second stanza. Stanza 2 says what? An endless sea of flowers. Okay, so continuous as the stars that shine. So the daffodils seem as numerous as the stars in the sky. आसमान में जैसे हजारों लाखों तारे होते हैं, उसी तरीके से in the sky there are hundreds and thousands of stars. In the same way, on earth also the daffodils seems to be numerous, uncountable. Okay, just like stars in the sky and twinkle on the Milky Way. So the stars, the stars that are in the sky, their brightness reminds the poet of shining and twinkling stars. So the poet compares daffodils with the stars also. Hundreds and thousands of daffodils, okay? And the poet compares the daffodils with the stars in the sky, and just as stars twinkle and shine, in the same manner you see the daffodils also, they also, just like the stars, they also keep twinkling and shining and dancing. Okay, they stretched in never ending lines, so the flowers appear to continue endlessly. Iska matlab, you know there are hundreds and thousands of flowers which are there on earth that the poet can see. So it seems that the line of flowers does not end. Matlab, jitne dur, until the point the poet can see, till there the daffodils are growing. That means न्यूमरस नंबर्स ऑफ डैफोडिल फ्लावर्स आर ग्रोइंग. इतने सारे डैफोडिल्स खिले हुए हैं कि एक तो उनको काउंट करना इम्पॉसिबल, इट इज इम्पॉसिबल टू काउंट देम. सो इट सीम्स दैट दे आर ग्रोइंग एंडलेसली. देयर इज नो एंड ऑफ डैफोडिल्स. ओके, जहां तक नजर जाता है सिर्फ डैफोडिल्स. ओके, सो अलोंग द मार्जिन, नेक्स्ट लाइन, अलोंग द मार्जिन ऑफ अ बे. सो बे हियर रेफर्स टू द लेक. हम जानते हैं बे मतलब समंदर का किनारा होता है. तो एनी एज ऑफ द, okay, the land part of the sea, we can say. So we can here say the water body. Bay here is the side, okay, the edge of the water body. So they form a long line along the edge of the lake or bay. So say this is a lake, okay, so this is a lake, and at the edge of the lake, hundreds and thousands of daffodils are growing here. Okay, hundreds and thousands of daffodils are growing here. Okay, then 10,000 I saw at a glance. The poet sees a huge number of daffodils at one time. Now 10,000, obviously the poet cannot count 10,000, right? Okay, so it is a figure of speech actually. Okay, इसको हम लोग बोलते हैं hyperbole. I'll be discussing on this also. We call this hyperbole. मतलब when you want to explain something, no, you exaggerate. आप थोड़ा ज़्यादा बोल जाते हैं. जैसे कि a mother is scolding her daughter or son. एक माँ अपने बेटे को या बेटी को गाली दे रही है ये बोल के, I have told you 1,000 times not to do this thing, but still you do. Obviously, the mother did not exactly tell 1,000 times to the boy or the girl, right? So this is a figure of speech, hyperbole. We call it hyperbole. Okay, so 10,000 I saw at a glance. That means the poet sees huge number of daffodils at one time. ठीक है, tossing their heads in sprightly dance. The flowers move their heads lively in the breeze like happy dancers. So as the wind is blowing, the flowers are moving their heads, okay, the top of the body of the flowers, that means the flower part, okay, that is considered as head, okay, that is moving with the wind just like happy dancers. Okay, then we come to stanza 3. Stanza 3 is the joy of the daffodils. Okay, daffodils ki khushi. The waves beside them danced, but they, okay, so the waves of the lake also seem to dance beside the flowers. So you see, in a lake there will be waves, so it seems that along with the daffodils, along with the dance of the daffodils, it seems that the waves of the lake also are dancing. Okay, but they outdid the sparkling waves in glee. That is, the daffodils look even happier and more joyful than the sparkling waves. But if you compare the dance of the flowers, the dance of the daffodils and the dance of the waves, दोनों को अगर आप compare करें daffodils और waves में, you will see that no, the daffodils are much happier. Daffodils ज़्यादा खुश है, daffodils ज़्यादा joyful है. The daffodils are more joyful than the waves. Okay, the waves may dance, but the daffodils are happier and joyful than the waves. So a poet could not but be gay. Gay means happy. Seeing such beauty naturally makes a poet happy. So, when the poet sees the daffodils, the whole scene makes the poet happy. Okay, पूरा जो ये scene है, the daffodils dancing, they are happy, they are joyful, this makes the poet happy. Now, in such a jocund company, so you see, the cheerful daffodils are like happy companions to the poet. So the poet is, the poet watches the daffodils dance. Okay, the poet watches the daffodils dance. So the poet feels a connection with the daffodils. Poet daffodils के साथ एक connection feel करता है, and the daffodils are like friends, companions to the poet. Companion मतलब friends to the poet. Okay, in such a happy company. ठीक है? So you see, when your companion is happy, when your friend is happy, you also feel very cheerful. But when your friend is sad, you also feel depressed, sad. So here you see daffodils give, the daffodils are giving joy to the poet. Daffodils जो है वो poet को बहुत ज़्यादा joy दे रहा है, खुशी दे रहा है. Okay, so the poet considers daffodils as his friends, as his companions. So I gazed and gazed, but little thought. That is, the poet keeps looking at the flowers, completely absorbed in their beauty. So the daffodils has mesmerized, okay, mesmerized the poet. Poet को पूरा mesmerize कर दिया है. Okay, and the poet is completely absorbed in their beauty. When you see something beautiful, your eyes are fixed on it. जब आप कोई बहुत सुंदर चीज देखते हैं ना, तो आपका आंख पूरा उसमें फिक्स होता है. So just like that, the poet's eyes are fixed on the dancing daffodils. Okay, so the poet keeps on looking at the flowers, and he's completely absorbed. The flowers, the daffodils have attracted him so much that he is completely absorbed in their beauty. Okay, now the last line of stanza 3. What wealth the show to me had brought. That means later he understands that this beautiful sight has given him great emotional richness and joy. Okay, so later you see, firstly to the poet keeps watching the daffodils and he feels very enjoying, but later he realizes one more thing. What is that? The beautiful sight of the daffodils has given him great emotional richness and along with that joy also. तो एक इमोशनल रिचनेस भी दिया पोएट को, और बहुत ज़्यादा हैप्पीनेस भी दिया इन डैफोडिल्स ने, टू द पोएट. ठीक है? ओके. Then stanza 4. So stanza 4 says what? The memory of nature. Okay, now we are going to learn the memory of nature. See, in the book you will not find, in the poem you will not find any title. This title I have put for your convenience, ताकि आप समझ पाए इसको और अच्छे से. ठीक है? So for oft when I on my couch lie. Now you see the poet is taking rest at home. ठीक है? अब क्या रह गया है? The poet is not in the valleys or the hills. Poet अभी valleys और hills में नहीं है. Poet अभी उसके घर पे है. The poet is in his home now. But the memory of the daffodils is still in the mind of the poet. वो जो daffodils का scene, the dancing that he has watched earlier, that memory is now in the mind of the poet, and the poet is at home now. Poet अभी घर पे है, उसके आसपास कोई daffodils नहीं है. Near him there are no daffodils. So it is the memory that the poet is talking about, the memory of the daffodils. Okay, so later when the poet rests at home, he often remembers the scene. So poet अभी अपने घर पे है, poet is in his home, but still he keeps on remembering the scene of the dancing daffodils. अभी भी उसके mind में ये long lasting impression है. Okay, still now in his mind there's this long lasting impression of the dancing daffodils, the happy daffodils. So in vacant or in pensive mood, that means he remembers it when he feels empty. Vacant means empty, pensive means lonely or thoughtful. Okay, or maybe depression also, a little bit of sadness also. So when the poet feels empty, when the poet feels lonely, when the poet is thoughtful or sad, he remembers the daffodils, and that instantly gives him joy. तो पोएट अभी घर पे है, तो पोएट अगर लोनली है, अब पोएट लोनली है, he feels empty, he feels thoughtful, he feels sad, so suddenly he will remember about the dancing daffodils, and there will be instantly a great deal of enjoyment inside his mind. They flash upon that inward eye. That means the memory of the daffodil suddenly appears in his mind. यही मैंने अभी बताया that he is in his home, but when he feels empty, lonely or thoughtful, suddenly the memory of the daffodils appear in his mind, which is the bliss of solitude. That means this memory gives him happiness when he is alone. So you see that when we are alone, we generally feel very empty, very lonely, right? But here, the poet also is alone at home, and the poet also feels empty, lonely, thoughtful, or sad. But you see, that memory gives him happiness. The memory of the daffodils gives him happiness. So he says that solitude means loneliness, okay? Solitude means loneliness. So he's saying that loneliness is a blessing. Okay, bliss माने blessing. Okay, bliss means blessing. So loneliness, he says, is a blessing. अब देखिए poet उल्टा सोच रहा है. The poet is thinking उल्टा. Generally for us, loneliness is a curse because when we are alone, we stay very, sad, right? No friends around, no family members around. We tend to remain very sad. But the poet is saying उल्टा here. The poet is saying that poet यहाँ पे बोल रहा है कि नहीं, अकेला रहना एक blessing है. क्यों blessing है? Because when your mind is filled with happiness and joy, then it is a blessing. And how will this mind be filled with happiness and joy? For the poet, it is the daffodils. So whenever he is sad, he will remember the daffodils, and suddenly his mind will become very happy. He will become very happy. Though he is lonely, still he is happy because of the memory of the daffodils, and that is why this is bliss of solitude. Okay. Then next line, and then my heart with pleasure fills. So suddenly the beautiful memory fills his heart with joy. The memory of the daffodils fills the poet's heart with joy. Okay. And dances with the daffodils. So along with the daffodils, his heart also seems to dance with the flowers. तो daffodils के जैसे poet का heart भी dance करने लगता है. And nature has become a lasting source of happiness. So you see, lasting means a long source of happiness. बहुत लंबे समय तक ये happiness चलेगा. Why? Because whenever he will be lonely, he will remember the daffodils. And whenever he will remember the daffodils, he will remember the dance of the daffodils. And his heart will also start dancing. उसका दिल भी जो है वो भी dance करना शुरू कर देगा, just like the daffodils. Alright? So what a beautiful poem it is, you see. Now we are going to learn the important poetic devices. Okay, I was talking in the beginning about hyperbole. So we are going to learn about many other poetic devices. Now students, if you want to learn in detail about the poetic devices, I have made a very beautiful video on poetic devices. Okay, I'll provide the link in the description box. Please check out the explanation of the poetic devices along with examples. It will help you a lot in your exams. Okay. Now the first one is simile. What is simile? Lonely as a cloud. So in the poem, if you see, there is a phrase called lonely as a cloud. So simile means what? Comparison. So the poet compares himself to a cloud. So this is called a simile. Lonely as a cloud. ये line आपको stanza 1 में मिल जाएगी. You'll find this line in stanza 1. Okay. So it means what? Simile. It means comparison. So the poet compares himself to what? He compares himself to a cloud. Okay. So this becomes a simile. Then next we have personification. So the daffodils and waves were described as dancing and tossing their heads. See, flowers cannot have heads. Who have heads? Human beings. So personification means any object compared to human being is called personification. Okay. So how you learn from these two words, dancing and tossing their heads. Okay. So who can dance? Human beings can dance. Who can toss their heads? Human beings can toss their heads. Okay. So the daffodils and waves are described as dancing and tossing their heads. This is personification. Example of personification. Then we have imagery. Imagery is nothing but picture. The whole poem is based on pictures. When you read stanza 1, stanza 2, 3, 4, the lakes, the daffodils, the valleys, the hills, a picture goes in your mind. That is imagery. So the poem creates a vivid picture of golden flowers, lake, trees, waves, stars. So all this creates a beautiful picture, okay, in your mind. So that is called imagery. Now hyperbole. Hyperbole, I've explained you. 10,000. The phrase 10,000 in the poem is hyperbole. This emphasizes the very large number of daffodils. So 10,000 daffodils, obviously the poet cannot count. How can the poet count 10,000 daffodils? So it is a hyperbole. मतलब poet जो है इतने excited है, just like I told you in the beginning itself, mother scolding her child, saying that I have told you 100 times not to do this thing. So 100 times definitely the mother did not say. So that is an example of hyperbole. So here in this case 10,000 is the example of hyperbole. Now we come to metaphor. Metaphor is inward eye. That means the poet's memory or imagination. Okay? So metaphor in the poem, the phrase is inward eye, and this means what? Inward eye means the poet's memory or imagination. Poet का जो memory है, उसका जो imagination है, that is considered as metaphor. Okay, inward eye. Okay, so the poem is so beautiful, you see. Now we will be learning the last section. We will be learning the overall meaning, and then we come to the end. So you see a short explanation. So the poet once sees a large number of beautiful golden daffodils dancing beside a lake. So poet एक दिन देखता है कि बहुत सारे जो है golden daffodils, they are dancing beside a lake. And this sight, this beautiful scene fills him with happiness. ठीक है. Later when he is alone or thoughtful, पोएट अभी अपने घर पे है, जब अपने घर पे है, अकेला है, सैड है, थॉटफुल है, तो द मेमोरी ऑफ द फ्लावर्स रिटर्न्स टू हिज माइंड. सो सडनली द मेमोरी ऑफ द फ्लावर्स दैट इज सो अर्लियर रिटर्न्स बैक टू हिज माइंड, एंड दिस मेमोरी गिव्स हिम पीस एंड जॉय. ठीक है, ये मेमोरी उसको पीस और जॉय देता है. Okay, and a very long lasting peace and joy. So the poem shows that nature is not only beautiful to look at, it can also give lasting happiness and emotional strength. तो ऐसा नहीं है कि you see nature and become happy. Even after you have seen nature, you come back to your house, still the memory of nature can also give you a very long lasting happiness and emotional strength. ठीक है? So what is the key takeaway from the poem? A beautiful experience in nature can remain in our memory and make us happy long after the moment has passed. See, poet has already seen the daffodils, right? Then he came back to his house, but the memory remains in his mind for a long time. Okay, the sight of the daffodils, ये जो sight है ना, the scene, the sight of daffodils, it is gone, right? The poet is in his house now. Poet तो अपने घर पे है. But फिर भी जो है, even if you don't see, even the memory can also give you happiness. Okay, so this is the poem all about. I hope you have understood the poem very nicely. Thank you so much for watching the video, and please comment below if you have any questions, any doubts, anything that you would like to share with me. Okay. So finally, subscribe to the channel, like and share my videos, and also follow me on Instagram and subscribe to my new channel, Omni Gyan Shorts. With love from Omni Gyan, and all the best to all of you. Thank you so much.